When I was younger, I had a terrible stammer. I couldn't talk. And on top of that, I was so incredibly shy that I just couldn't find a way to connect with people. But at the same time, I loved the stage. I wanted somehow to perform. So I would put on skits for my family and for my animals at home, and weirdly, my stammer would go away. I think that's something that happens when you're performing. I didn't feel like I was myself, so I just wouldn't stammer anymore. I remember, I think I was about 12 years old, and I was in a play where I got the lead role. I had to play a woodcutter. And I'm really surprised I'm able to say that word, woodcutter, on stage because I wasn't sure I would be able to say it. Because when I was in the play, the whole thing that I just kept getting freaked out every rehearsal because there was one line where I had to mention who I was. I had to say something along the lines of, "But madam, I'm only a woodcutter." And every time that part would come up, I would mumble in the rehearsal, saying, "But madam, I'm only a woo." And no one really heard what I had to say. So I managed to get through with it during rehearsals. But when it came to the actual big day and the play was happening and it was a final day, I psyched myself out because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to say this word. And I was so self-aware. And I scared myself so much that, yes, when it came to the time when I had to say that one particular line, I blew it. I blew it so badly that I just stood over there on stage and I had my teacher at the back saying, "Ayesha, it's so obvious. That's what you're playing. It's not so hard to say." Everyone thought I'd forgotten the line. I hadn't forgotten what it was. The audience was just in this hushed, judgmental tone, kind of hushed silence I was going on, that at least I was feeling. And I was panicking. And I was like, "Okay, Ayesha, what are you going to say? Are you going to be able to say it? Are you going to be able to say it?" And I was like, "You know what? You're not going to be able to say it. It's okay, just stumble through it, stutter through it, just get it over with." So it took me about 50 seconds to take out that one word because I stammered through the entire thing. And I could feel my cheeks burning and I was so embarrassed. At that time, I just felt all this shame inside of me that I'm this failure and I messed this up so badly. I'll never forget that. I was one of those kids in Urdu class where all the kids would be, sighing and huffing and puffing because there were certain words that I couldn't pronounce. And I could feel that shame constantly because I knew I couldn't say it. Then I went off to university where I studied literature and philosophy. Two subjects I love. I love talking about the human experience. I love understanding and analyzing characters and fallen heroes and these flawed individuals you see in all of these books. And I was so up my alley and I was so good at it. And I had so many ideas and thoughts that I wanted to share. And we had these seminars with about 15, 20 kids and a teacher. And it was so fun. You had to read about 5 to 6 books every week where, it was like for literature and philosophy. So a double major. So it was quite a few books and all we had to do was sit and discuss. And that is like my dream come true. It's my favorite thing to do. But when I was sitting in the seminar, I would start freaking out that, oh my God, it's going to be my turn. I'm going to have to talk. I'm not going to be able to do this. And I couldn't do it. My heart was pounding the whole time. Even if I had good ideas, I couldn't say them because I just kept saying, "Come on, Ayesha, I know you can do it. I know you can do it." I just couldn't do it. I was so scared the entire time that I just couldn't talk. And when my name would come up, I would again just mumble through it. I started believing myself to be stupid. I thought I was foolish. I thought I was dumb. I thought I didn't know anything and I didn't even know why I was there. To a point that I failed very badly. My first philosophy essay, I failed so badly. And the thing is, I went to study on 100% scholarship. And I had to maintain that scholarship. How was I going to maintain that if I was not going to do well? So then I just spoke to myself and I was like, "Look, Ayesha, you might not be able to talk, but you can certainly do." And after that, I said to myself, I am going to ace every paper. I'm going to write the best essays, and I'm not going to be able to talk about it, but I sure can show what I am doing. And I am so glad now when I look back, because if I hadn't been able to do, and if I could just talk, I wouldn't be this sort of ultra performer, high achiever that I am today because I just showed my work. And that's what I do with ACF today as well. I show. I talk less and I show more. Everyone can talk. Everyone has an opinion on social media. We all know that. But it's about the execution. It's about the showing. It's about the action. That is what actually matters. And when I look back, I am so glad that I had this impediment that I had to overcome because it made me more of a doer. There's something that Steve Jobs said. He said, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, not looking forward. So when I'm standing over here and I'm looking back, you got to also trust the process that it's going to work out. And now when I look back, I'm so glad I stammered. I'm so glad I became a doer rather than a talker. I'm so glad I had to overcome that. But that wasn't enough for me. I had to go further. With philosophy, what was really interesting is that even the fact that I studied it, I wasn't meant to study it. I had applied to just study literature. And I remember I got a call from the college saying you got 100% scholarship. And I was like, what? That's crazy. I didn't do very well in school. I just wrote a very good personal essay that came from the heart, and I think they liked it, and I got really, really lucky. But when I got the scholarship, they were like, it's just for literature, yes? And I was like, and philosophy. I just said it. And if I hadn't said and philosophy on that one phone call, ACF would not exist today, and so many animals would not have been saved. And the reason for that is everyone laughed at me for taking philosophy because they were like, philosophy doesn't do anything. It's not a profession. It's not going to teach you anything. Philosophy doesn't teach you what to think. Philosophy teaches you how to think. I learned about things like the absurdity of life and the paradox of suffering and pain and pleasure and all about the human experience to such a level where I got to harness my empathy in such a way that I could write from the point of view of the animal, and I could make it so nuanced and so deep, simply because of that one subject. So again, when I'm connecting the dots, I'm so glad I just said and philosophy. On a spur of the moment in that one phone call, it was just incredible. Then I went off to do my master's, and I decided, okay, I know I'm still not very good at the talking thing and I'm still really shy, but let's do my master's in journalism, but let's pick broadcast journalism. I'm talking about radio and television. Now we're talking about a stammering girl who is super, super shy, who also doesn't want to be like that, who wants to be in front, but is so scared of doing that. But I managed to put myself out, then be like, okay, let's give it a shot. I wanted to put myself in uncomfortable situations to make them comfortable. Because the more you expand your circle of discomfort, the more you create comfort zones, which means the more you conquer and you master difficulties to overcome them, and the greater chance you have to succeed. That's what I was doing when I was doing my master's. I remember I was doing a report on the radio where I was talking about it, but my teacher in front of 37 students, and I was mortified at the time when I think about it, but she said that, Ayesha, when you talk, you sound like you're apologizing for your existence. And I was like, oh my God, that actually gave me chills. Because she was right. I was embarrassed and I was mortified, but I'm very open to listening to criticism that would be helpful, and that really was. Because it was like, oh my God, she was absolutely correct. That's precisely what I was doing. You know, I started believing, for many reasons, but I started believing that I'm not good enough and that I can't do anything. I would even do something that I'm sure other people who stammer might, maybe do, is that my brain works faster than my mouth. So I would think about certain things that I might not be able to say, and I would replace them with a word that I could say. But that would maybe change the meaning of the sentence and the meaning of the statement that I was trying to say. That would again make me come across as maybe not as bright or maybe not as intelligent as I would want to. I wasn't able to express myself fully. But when she said that kind of stuck with me, because I always felt like I was on the sidelines. I always felt like I was this outcast and this misfit. And one of the biggest reasons why I made ACF, it wasn't just for my love for animals. It was actually because I wanted a place for the misfits and the outcasts to belong. And who are bigger misfits and outcasts than the dogs and the cats and the donkeys on the street that no one pays attention to? There was an entire philosophy behind ACF that went way deeper than just my love for animals. When I was then learning about myself more and more and more, I realized, you know what? Okay, when I created the sanctuary, I found a place where I belonged. I felt good. I was like, this is where I belong. This is a place where anyone who doesn't belong anywhere else, they can belong over here. But then I read something by Brené Brown and it just blew my mind. Where she said that there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. Fitting in is when you edit and you alter yourself to adjust to the norms of society or what people want. Whereas true belonging is when you're just authentic to yourself, when you just belong to you. When you are real, you can belong anywhere because at the end of the day, you just belong to you. And I have grown up with ACF side by side. ACF is like my alter ego. I would write things from the point of view of the animals. I would put my heart and soul into whatever I would write, which is how our social media gained so much traction, which is how all of you know about ACF today. So when I realized this, I was like, I can do this anywhere. She said something else that was so fantastic. She said that comfort and courage do not go hand in hand. Vulnerability is courage. And that is so true. If you wake up every day and you do the same thing every day and you're just constantly comfortable and you never venture out into something that is the unknown, you're never going to know if you're brave or not. The only way you know that you're brave is when you put yourself in really difficult situations, when you put yourself in places where you are absolutely terrified and you're nervous and you don't know if you're going to make it through, but you do it anyway. That is brave. Do you think a shy, stammering girl, which I still am inside, do you think I can go up and talk to the shopkeepers at pet markets and tell them to not be cruel to their animals? Do you think I had the courage or the guts to go up and talk to the public on the road while we were vaccinating and neutering dogs and telling them and educating them to not kill dogs and not poison them, but to actually take care of them instead and to explain what we were doing? I was this shy girl who couldn't talk to anyone, but now I'm actually going out in the public and I talk to everyone because I put myself in situations that I was terrified of before. I would go to all these big organizations and ask them to help my cause, and I would just have people laugh at me. I was rejected by everyone. No one really believed in my vision. No one believed in what I was trying to do. And that's okay. I had to believe in it. And I had to just keep going and find new ways of connecting with people and putting myself in situations that were uncomfortable so I could master them to make them comfortable. And that is how I just kept going along. There were all these ideas that would keep going on in my head. My parents are divorced, so people would say stuff like, you're from a broken home. You're never going to amount to anything. Another trick I learned was dissect what people are actually saying. What is a broken home? Let's take it literally. I have a roof over my head. I'm very lucky to have that. It's made of bricks. It's not broken. It's not a broken home, literally. Let's talk about metaphorically. What? Because my family structure is different? That makes it broken? Who is anyone to tell me what is broken and what is not broken? That's a mean phrase that people use to put you down. And because I started removing all the layers that, we put on things, we attach all these meanings and values that don't actually exist. I started seeing reality for what it was. I started seeing animals for what they were. Everything I kept hearing my whole life, our donkeys used to being beaten. Stray dogs don't need anything. This stuff doesn't matter. What you're doing is a waste of time. I started questioning everything. I started questioning what we consider normal, and I decided that no, that's not normal because I dissected it to find out what the truth actually was. And that is the most empowering thing that you can do. All of these little life lessons I'm trying to tell you, it's because I've been a student of life myself. There's something that my favorite scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he says. He says that you don't find your purpose in life. He says you create your purpose in life. And I loved that because I had to create everything. I had to manifest what was in my brain to make it a reality. There was nothing for animal welfare over here. Whatever I did, I manifested that in my brain to make it real. And he's so right. And when you say you got to find your purpose, it takes away from the hard work. It takes away from the passion, the dedication, the tension, the exhaustion, the fear that goes into making it possible. And I love that he said that. I learn every day. I make it a point to learn something that inspires me every day. Because even though my work is so soul-shattering, it's so sad, I see so much injustice, I try to find the beauty in it all the time. So being a student of life, you guys are just starting. You are now going to become students of life in a bigger way. That is what you guys have to always remember. Keep learning more. When I'm telling you all of this, I'm actually thinking back on that little girl who was about 12 years old, and she was a woodcutter in the play. And I still remember I was frozen in fear. I was so frozen at that time because I was like, Ayesha, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay authentic to who you are? Or are you just going to cave in? Are you going to start crying on stage? What are you going to do? And I remember saying to myself, not as, I wasn't so articulate about it, but I was like, just be you, Ayesha. And whatever stammering I was doing then, whatever judgment was coming my way, I stayed authentic to who I was, and I have to date remained authentic to who I am. So if I had to talk to that little girl now, I would be like, not only did you find a voice for yourself, despite your impediments, despite whatever obstacles you faced, you found a voice for yourself, but you also became the voice of millions of animals in this country that don't have one. Thank you.